Strange New Worlds finally explained why the Klingons trusted Spock, and Star Trek VI, Lieutenant Spock, Ethan Peck, established a rapport with the Klingons in Star Trek Strange New Worlds that set up Captain Spock, Leonard Nimoy, brokering peace between the Klingons and the United Federation of Planets in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. In Star Trek's 23rd century timeline, Klingons and the Federation were enemies for decades. However, the destruction of the Klingon moon praxis in 2293 forced the Klingons to sue for peace, with Spock serving as the Federation's ambassador. Spock is the son of Sarek Mark Leonard, the Vulcan ambassador to the Federation. Perhaps Spock's capacity for compromise and negotiation is inherited from his father, while Spock's empathy comes from his mother, Amanda Grayson's Jane Wyatt humanity. However, Ambassador Sarek didn't particularly distinguish himself by negotiating with Klingons. Parleying with the Federation's greatest 23rd century enemies seems to be a singular ability Spock, among the cast of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, possesses, and it was set up by Spock's first encounter with the Klingons in Strange New Worlds. In Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 1, The Broken Circle, Lieutenant Spock hijacked the USS Enterprise to rescue Lan Noonien Singh, Christina Chong, from Kajitar 4. The Enterprise crew discovered a syndicate of Klingons and Federation officers called the Broken Circle planned to use a false Federation starship to start a second Klingon war. Spock led the Enterprise to stop the Broken Circle, to the surprise of Klingon Captain Jock, Andrew Jackson. Captain Jock was also taken aback that the Vulcan in command of the Federation's flagship offered to prove his trustworthiness by drinking blood wine with the Klingons. When Jock noted Spock is not a typical Vulcan, he agreed, "No, it would seem I am not." Indeed, Spock heartily drank blood wine, earning the Klingons' respect. More importantly, Star Trek Strange New Worlds established that Spock has a manner that puts Klingons at ease, even though he is a Vulcan and a Starfleet officer. From Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2 to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, which takes place roughly 33 years later, Spock has shown an uncanny ability to gain the trust and respect of Klingons. Traditionally, Klingons saw Vulcans as the Federation's lapdogs, and their emotionless logic runs counter to the bloodthirsty honor Klingons take pride in. Yet Spock becomes relatable to Klingons despite his pointed ears and Starfleet uniform. There's something about Spock that Klingons seem to genuinely like and respect. Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2's premiere offers the explanation that Klingons find Spock agreeable because he is a Vulcan who acts nothing like a Vulcan. But the key is that the Klingons who first took a shine to Spock met him during Strange New Worlds. At this point, the younger Spock wasn't so rigid in his Vulcan logic, and he experimented with his emotions. Spock choosing to drink blood wine with the Klingons, when Vulcans traditionally don't imbibe, surprised the warrior race on Kajitar 4. Spock continued to drink with Klingons, and Star Trek VI was such an occasion when the Klingon moon praxis exploded at the start of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. The Klingon Empire was on the verge of financial collapse, and it could simply not afford to continue hostilities with the Federation. It was Spock who reached across the intergalactic aisle and made the concept of peace with the Federation palatable for the Klingons. Crucially, Spock's previous dealings with the Klingons, beginning with Star Trek Strange New Worlds, gave the Vulcan the necessary insight of how to bring Klingons to the negotiating table without losing face. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country features one of the most memorable and significant moments in the history of Star Trek, the collaboration between Spock and the Klingons. Spock, the half-human, half-Vulcan science officer of the USS Enterprise, has always been an enigma to those around him. His unique duality allows him to see the world through a different lens, and this played a major role in fostering peace with the Klingons. But why did the Klingons, historically the Federation's most bitter enemy, choose to trust Spock, particularly when tensions were at an all-time high? The recent Strange New World series, with its focus on Spock's early years, provides valuable context that sheds light on the seeds of this unlikely trust. Understanding Spock's place in Klingon history, the Klingon Empire, known for its warrior culture and aggressive expansionism, was never one to trust outsiders easily, especially a Federation officer. However, Spock wasn't just any officer. The Klingons had a long, complicated history with him and his people. In Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, which takes place years before the original series, we get to see a younger, less seasoned Spock as he develops relationships with the Klingons, navigates his identity, and forges a reputation that would echo into the future. In this era, Spock is still grappling with his dual heritage, but it's precisely this struggle that makes him a unique figure in the galaxy. As a Vulcan, he embodies logic, discipline, and a strong sense of diplomacy, traits the Klingons may not admire but have come to respect, particularly in those who follow the strict Vulcan way. However, Spock's human side allows him to understand the complexities of Klingon pride and honor, as well as their more volatile emotions. Over time, this blend of logic and emotional understanding earns him a measure of respect among the Klingons. The events of Star Trek VI, a unique moment in Klingon Federation relations by the time of Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, Spock has already spent decades working toward peaceful coexistence between the Klingons and the Federation. The events of the movie take place at a crucial moment in galactic history, with the Klingon Empire on the brink of collapse following the destruction of their moon, Praxis. The environmental disaster left the Klingons in dire need of aid, forcing them to consider the once unthinkable, negotiating peace with the Federation. Spock plays a pivotal role in these negotiations. His willingness to reach out to the Klingons, to offer assistance and a pathway to peace was crucial. While some within the Federation viewed the Klingons with deep suspicion and hostility, Spock recognized that the future of both civilizations depended on cooperation rather than continued conflict. But trust is a two-way street, and for the Klingons to accept Spock's overtures, they needed to see him as more than just another Federation officer. They had to believe that Spock understood their plight, their pride, and their sense of honor. This is where Spock's history, as explored in Strange New Worlds, becomes essential. Strange New Worlds and the building of trust. Strange New Worlds gives us insight into Spock's earlier encounters with the Klingons, highlighting his efforts to understand them not as enemies, but as a people with their own culture, values, and strengths. His dedication to diplomacy and his refusal to see the Klingons as mere adversaries played a key role in shaping their perception of him. One particular element of Spock's character that Klingons came to admire was his adherence to honor and integrity. The Klingons, despite their fierce nature, hold honor above all else. Spock's commitment to his principles, his unwavering sense of duty, and his honesty in dealing with others resonated with the Klingon sense of what it means to be honorable. This laid the foundation for a relationship built on mutual respect, even if they didn't always agree. Additionally, Spock's status as a Vulcan set him apart. The Vulcans were known throughout the galaxy for their logic and their adherence to non-emotion-based decision-making. Klingons, while emotional and often violent, could appreciate the clarity and decisiveness that came with such an approach. Spock's actions during previous missions, as seen in Strange New Worlds, demonstrated that he was not only a capable officer, but also someone who could be trusted to act in the best interest of both parties. Why the Klingons trusted Spock in Star Trek VI? Ultimately, the Klingons trusted Spock in Star Trek VI because he had earned their respect over the years. Through his early interactions with them in Strange New Worlds and later experiences, he had proven that he was a man of honor, logic, and empathy. His unique understanding of both the Vulcan and human sides allowed,